We return now to France. Yesterday's attacks, among other things, put a spotlight on the growing tensions between the country's Muslim and immigrant community and a large portion of French society.
And these policies have real-life consequences. Let me show you some numbers. In 2019, there were 154 attacks on French Muslims. In 2020, 235 attacks. That's a 53% jump.
In recent times, France has witnessed a surge in tension and conflict arising from the intersection of immigration, national identity, and religious differences. The most alarming manifestation of this strife has been the emergence of French patriots targeting Islamic mosques, an act they justify as a response to what they perceive as an immigration crisis.
In France, President Emmanuel Macron is a confused man. He wants to be tough on radical Islam, but he doesn't know how to do it. He wants to call himself a centrist, but he doesn't want to lose the right-wing vote. The result is this: a confused and problematic policy.
This phenomenon has generated widespread concern and debate, touching on issues of law, ethics, and the very fabric of French society. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. The term immigration crisis has been frequently used in political and social discourse, encapsulating fears about the influx of immigrants, particularly from Muslim-majority countries.
French President Emmanuel Macron's government is working on a new migration bill. The administration wants to crack down on illegal immigration, while at the same time welcoming much-needed skilled workers. The bill also aims for tougher action against extremism and terrorism. But rights workers fear that it will just make life for new arrivals even more difficult.
This has been driven by various factors, including economic instability, wars, and social unrest in regions like the Middle East and North Africa. France, with its liberal immigration policies and historical ties to many of these countries, has seen a significant rise in the number of immigrants seeking refuge within its borders.
In a pivotal move, French lawmakers have granted their final approval to a controversial immigration bill. The approval of the bill, it has secured a policy win for President Emmanuel Macron. The bill is a compromise forged between Macron's party and the conservative opposition. It underlines a notable rightward trend in European politics, causing a chip of unease among Macron's left-leaning lawmakers. The vote also exposes the delicate balance in Macron's centrist majority.
This demographic shift has sparked a range of responses from the French populace, from welcoming support to outright hostility. The rise of anti-immigrant sentiment can be traced back to multiple economic, social, and political dynamics.
Most of us undocumented immigrants are using this method. We're paying social insurance fees and taxes without benefiting from services such as regular public health care. President Macron's government treats us as if we were nothing, although we're doing all the dirty work.
Economically, France has faced significant challenges, including high unemployment rates and sluggish economic growth. Many citizens believe that immigrants are competing for limited job opportunities and social services, thereby exacerbating their own economic hardships.
The French government had initially endorsed the bill with a carrot-and-stick approach. This meant that the bill would make it easier for the migrants working in sectors that fall short of labor to gain a residency permit. But on the other hand, it would also make sure to expel illegal migrants.
This perception, whether accurate or not, fuels resentment and fosters an environment where extremist ideologies can flourish. Socially, the integration of immigrants, particularly Muslims, has been a contentious issue. France's staunch secularism, enshrined in the principle of laïcité, often clashes with visible expressions of Islamic faith. The wearing of headscarves, building of mosques, and public observance of religious practices.
The French Interior Minister says the sermons were cultivating hatred towards France. He plans to shut 7 more mosques by the end of this year. Again, the same reason: radical Islamic leanings. And this has become Macron's go-to policy. Suspect a problem, shut it down completely.
Are frequently portrayed as threats to French secular values. High-profile incidents, such as the terrorist attacks in Paris and Nice, have further exacerbated tensions, leading some to associate all Muslims with extremism. Politically, right-wing populist movements have gained traction by exploiting fears related to immigration. Parties like the National Rally, led by figures such as Marine Le Pen, have capitalized on the discontent by promoting anti-immigrant and anti-Islam rhetoric. Their narrative suggests that preserving French culture and identity necessitates stringent immigration controls and, in some cases, drastic actions against Islamic symbols and institutions. The destruction of Islamic mosques represents the extreme manifestation of this volatile mix of economic, social, and political discontent.
Take a look at his track record. 13 Muslim associations shut, 92 mosques closed, and 36,000 foreigners stripped of their residence permits. On what grounds? Threat to public life. That's what the French government says. Now, nobody is defending radical Islam. Nobody is against their counter-terrorism operations. France has a real problem, one that we've underlined repeatedly on the show. But President Macron's policy is not fixing that problem. He may be crossing the line, the thin line between targeting radicalization and targeting Islam.
Mosques, as visible symbols of Islamic presence in France, have become targets for those who view Islam as incompatible with French values. This hostility is not merely rhetorical. It has manifested in violent actions that undermine the safety and security of Muslim communities in France. In several regions, reports of mosque vandalism and arson have increased. These acts are often carried out under the cover of night, with perpetrators employing tactics designed to instill fear among Muslim residents.
The French government says the closures are part of a campaign to combat radicalism in the country, but many see this as an ongoing drive against Muslims and their places of worship. In August, France approved a controversial anti-separatism law, which has been criticised for marginalising Muslims and restricting their religious freedom.
In some cases, graffiti with anti-Islamic slurs is spray-painted on mosque walls, while in others, arsonists have set fire to these religious structures, causing significant damage. These attacks are usually justified by the perpetrators as necessary measures to protect French culture from being eroded by Islamic influences. One such incident occurred in the city of Lyon, where a mosque was severely damaged in an arson attack. The perpetrators left behind a trail of destruction and a clear message, "France for the French." This slogan, reminiscent of far-right nationalist rhetoric,
The attack took place on Monday afternoon in this mosque just outside the southwestern town of Bayonne. Two worshippers found a man trying to set fire to the door of the mosque. They were shot by the suspect. One is in a critical condition.
You can't put everyone in the same boat. The attacker represents only himself. There are good people and bad people. That's the way things are, and we mustn't judge.
Investigators are still trying to determine the motive behind the attack. According to French press, the suspect has already admitted he carried out the strike.
Highlights the underlying xenophobia driving these acts of violence. The aftermath saw a community left in shock, with Muslim residents expressing fear for their safety and uncertainty about their future in a country they call home. The French government has condemned these acts of violence, but responses have often been criticized as insufficient.
Est-ce que l'islam peut exister en France?
Non, il ne peut pas s'adapter en tout cas en France, parce que notre rapport à la société n'est pas le même. Notre rapport de traiter la femme, de traiter les institutions, la laïcité, etc. Il n'y a rien en fait qui est compatible avec l'islam.
Et c'est l'islam en particulier ou c'est toutes les religions étrangères?
Non, c'est l'islam en particulier. L'islam en particulier a une volonté de conquête. Et ils ont une volonté d'islamiser la France.
C'est quoi l'islamisation de la France?
Alors, très concrètement, aujourd'hui en France, la France qui est pourtant de culture chrétienne.
President Emmanuel Macron has emphasized the need for national unity and the importance of upholding secular values without resorting to discrimination.
Continuerons, professeur. Nous défendrons la liberté que vous enseignez si bien. Et nous porterons haut la laïcité. Nous ne renoncerons pas aux caricatures.
However, balancing the enforcement of secularism with respect for religious freedom remains a delicate challenge. While the government has increased security measures around mosques and launched investigations to bring perpetrators to justice, these steps have not fully assuaged the fears of the Muslim community. The media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception of these incidents.
Il est vrai qu'en 2003-2004, la France était le pays le plus populaire dans le monde musulman. Et aujourd'hui, c'est le pays occidental le plus impopulaire. Donc quelque chose s'est passé qui n'a pas été. Donc c'est vrai qu'il y a eu un pic avec l'opposition de Chirac à la guerre d'Irak, qui a été un moment très fort de la diplomatie française. Après, on est un petit peu rentré dans le rang quand même par rapport à cela. Et puis, et c'est là, en dehors de Charlie Hebdo, les multiples débats, toutes ces couvertures des médias hostiles à l'islam, les déclarations fracassantes.
Coverage often oscillates between condemning the attacks and exploring the grievances of those who commit them. This duality can inadvertently lend legitimacy to the anti-immigrant arguments by giving them a platform. Moreover, sensationalist reporting can inflame tensions further, creating a cycle of fear and retaliation.
Des policiers dans la rue comme ça?
Non, pas autant. Maintenant, c'est la situation qui fait qu'ils sortent. Je la vois plus comme avant.
Maintenant, vous le voyez comment?
Je la vois plus comme avant. Je sais pas, j'ai l'impression de la découvrir maintenant. Parce que l'église, on passe devant, on regarde, on jette un coup d'œil comme ça, vite fait, quoi. Puis là, je découvre ces pierres, je découvre un peu tout ce qu'il y a, je la vois autrement. C'est terrible.
On the ground, Muslim communities are organizing to defend themselves against these assaults. Grassroots organizations are forming to provide security for mosques and to foster dialogue between Muslims and non-Muslims. These initiatives aim to counteract the narrative of division and to promote a message of coexistence and mutual respect. Community leaders emphasize that Islam and French values are not mutually exclusive and that a peaceful, integrated society benefits all citizens. Educational efforts are also underway to combat ignorance and prejudice. Schools and community centers are hosting workshops and seminars to educate people about Islam and to dispel myths that fuel xenophobia. These programs highlight the contributions of Muslims to French society, from arts and culture to science and public service.
So what did you talk about with the kids?
I said, okay, the first thing I want to tell you is that I don't know what to tell you. But then I told them a story that happened 9 years ago at my school. We were threatened by Islamist groups, and I was personally on the line, and I had my name on every extremist Islamist blog in France. The name of the man that started it all was the same one that started everything against Samuel Paty 3 weeks ago. And so I told them, well, you know what, it could have been me.
Will you keep showing the caricatures?
By fostering understanding and empathy, these initiatives hope to bridge the divide that extremist groups seek to widen. The international community has also expressed concern over the rise of Islamophobia in France. Human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, have called on the French government to take stronger action to protect religious minorities. They argue that failing to address these hate crimes not only violates the rights of Muslims, but also undermines France's standing as a nation committed to human rights and equality. Despite these efforts, the challenge remains daunting. The destruction of mosques is not just an attack on buildings, but an assault on the very principles of freedom and tolerance that France espouses. It reflects a deeper struggle over what it means to be French in a globalized world, where cultures intersect and identities evolve. This struggle is not unique to France. It resonates with broader debates happening across Europe and beyond.
Brent, there have just been some breaking news, actually. So this bill was supposed to be discussed in Parliament now for a couple of weeks, but the opposition filed a motion to reject this before the debate could start in Parliament. And there were enough votes to vote for the rejection, so the debate is now halted, and the bill has to go back to the Senate or to a mixed commission.
The road to resolving this crisis requires a multifaceted approach. Politically, leaders must address the root causes of economic and social discontent that fuel anti-immigrant sentiment. Policies that promote economic inclusion, social cohesion, and equitable opportunities for all citizens, regardless of their background, are essential. This includes addressing disparities in education, employment, and housing that disproportionately affect immigrant communities.
They will further restrict the possibilities to obtain legal papers and deploy even more means to crack down on immigrants, to arrest and expel them. That would even concern immigrants who have papers. Immigrants are being labelled as criminals, and even mainstream politicians are now being outright xenophobic.
Legally, robust measures are needed to protect religious institutions and to prosecute those who perpetrate hate crimes. This involves not only enforcing existing laws, but also ensuring that law enforcement agencies are adequately trained to handle these sensitive issues. Efforts to build trust between law enforcement and Muslim communities are crucial to encourage reporting of incidents and to facilitate effective interventions. Culturally, a concerted effort is required to promote intercultural dialogue and to celebrate the diversity that enriches French society. Media outlets, educational institutions, and cultural organizations all have a role to play in fostering an environment of respect and understanding. This includes highlighting positive stories of integration and cooperation, rather than focusing solely on conflict and division. On a personal level, individuals can contribute to this effort by challenging their own biases and prejudices. Engaging in conversations with people from different backgrounds, learning about their experiences, and recognizing common humanity can help break down the barriers that divide us. Acts of solidarity and support for those targeted by hate crimes send a powerful message that such behavior is unacceptable. The significance of the current situation in France extends beyond its borders, highlighting a global struggle between maintaining national identity and embracing multiculturalism.
And these policies have real-life consequences. Let me show you some numbers. In 2019, there were 154 attacks on French Muslims. In 2020, 235 attacks. That's a 53% jump. And that too in the middle of lockdowns. So clearly, Macron's policy has made French Muslims a target. The question is, why is he doing this? Emmanuel Macron was the centrist darling, the savior of the liberal world order. When did he become the villain? When he started losing public support. Macron is up for re-election next year, and his chances do not look good.
As France grapples with these challenges, it serves as a microcosm of similar tensions felt in many parts of the world, where immigration and cultural integration are contentious issues. The root causes of anti-immigrant sentiment are complex and multifaceted. Economic insecurity plays a significant role, as many native-born French citizens feel left behind by globalization and technological advancements. They perceive immigrants as competitors for jobs and social services, exacerbating their own financial struggles. This economic anxiety is fertile ground for populist leaders who scapegoat immigrants and minorities, offering simple solutions to complex problems. By blaming immigrants for economic woes, these leaders divert attention from systemic issues such as income inequality and the failures of neoliberal economic policies.
Now, this immigration bill will go back to the National Assembly, where debates are set to start in December. The Assembly can either add amendments or even scrap some other existing ones. Let's try to understand what the bill actually is. Now, the bills seek to push forward the regularization of undocumented workers in labor shortage sectors. This, as a majority of the European nations are facing an extraordinary shortage of labor. Regularization will provide 1-year residence permit to these workers if they are working in sectors like construction, catering, hotels, and personal assistance.
Another contributing factor is the perceived cultural threat posed by immigrants, particularly Muslims. France's strict secularism, or laïcité, is a core component of its national identity, emphasizing the separation of religion from public life. This principle is often invoked to justify policies that restrict religious expression, such as bans on headscarves in schools and full-face veils in public spaces. Critics argue that these policies disproportionately target Muslims and contribute to their marginalization. For many French citizens, visible signs of Islam, such as mosques and religious attire, are seen as incompatible with secular values and a threat to the cohesion of French society. The historical context is also crucial in understanding the current dynamics. France has a colonial past that involved extensive interaction with Muslim-majority countries, particularly in North Africa. The legacy of colonialism, including the exploitation and subjugation of colonized peoples, continues to influence contemporary attitudes toward immigrants from these regions.
President Macron is playing to the gallery. It may help him win the election. But what about the French society? Can it heal from these divisions? France has a total population of 67 million people. 5 million of them are Muslims. Now, some of them came as refugees, others migrated for better opportunities. Whatever the reason, they're now French citizens. But Macron's policies treat them as suspects. Every Muslim a target for radicalization, every mosque a hub of extremism. This is not the solution to Islamist terror. And the worrying part is ordinary French people are buying this narrative.
There is a lingering sense of superiority and a reluctance to fully accept former colonial subjects as equal members of French society. This historical baggage exacerbates the challenges of integration and fosters a climate of suspicion and resentment. The role of the media cannot be understated in shaping public perceptions of immigrants and Muslims. Sensationalist reporting often focuses on negative incidents involving immigrants, such as crime or terrorism.
Macron's left wing faced internal dissent against the bill. However, the French Interior Minister stressed the need for strict measures following the vote. He expressed relief as the bill garnered support from the centrist coalition and conservatives, avoiding reliance on far-right endorsement.
While overlooking positive contributions to society, this skewed portrayal reinforces stereotypes and fuels fear and hostility. Social media amplifies these effects, allowing misinformation and extremist views to spread rapidly and widely. Echo chambers and filter bubbles create environments where people are only exposed to viewpoints that reinforce their existing biases, further entrenching divisions. Education is a critical arena for addressing these issues and promoting social cohesion. Schools have the potential to be sites of integration, where children from diverse backgrounds learn to understand and respect each other. However, the French education system faces significant challenges, including segregation and disparities in educational outcomes. Children from immigrant families are often concentrated in underfunded schools with fewer resources and lower academic performance. This segregation perpetuates social divides and limits opportunities for meaningful intercultural interaction.
France has passed more than 100 immigration laws since 1945. Some of them were supposed to boost immigration, others to restrict. But experts have been telling me that these changes in the law have had practically no impact on the number of immigrants per year. Most of those coming to France are looking for a better life and will not be deterred by tougher immigration rules.
To counteract these trends, educational reforms are needed to promote inclusivity and equal opportunities. This includes ensuring equitable funding for schools, training teachers to handle diverse classrooms, and incorporating multicultural education into the curriculum. Programs that foster intercultural dialogue and mutual understanding can help break down stereotypes and build a sense of shared identity among students. By equipping young people with the skills and attitudes needed to navigate a multicultural society, education can play a vital role in building a more cohesive and inclusive France. Community initiatives are also essential in bridging divides and fostering social cohesion. Local organizations and grassroots movements can create spaces for dialogue and collaboration between different cultural and religious groups. These initiatives often involve community events, cultural exchanges, and joint projects that bring people together around common interests and goals. By building personal connections and fostering a sense of community, these efforts can counteract the narratives of division and hostility. One example of such an initiative is the establishment of interfaith dialogues, where leaders and members of different religious communities come together to discuss common concerns and promote mutual understanding. These dialogues can address misconceptions about Islam and highlight the shared values and principles that underpin different faiths. They also provide a platform for addressing conflicts and tensions in a constructive and peaceful manner. Another important aspect is the role of civil society organizations in advocating for the rights of immigrants and combating discrimination. These organizations provide support and resources for immigrants, helping them navigate legal and bureaucratic challenges, access social services, and integrate into their new communities. They also play a crucial role in raising awareness about issues of racism and xenophobia, and advocating for policies that promote equality and inclusion.
We have an identity and we also have laws. So French law forbids anyone to be entirely veiled. So I have only applied the law. There's absolutely no Islamophobic, racist, or extremist motivation on my end. I am saying to the Muslims, the French Muslims who want to live their Islam, that they have the right to do so, of course. Our country, secularism, allows them to live their Islam.
Legal and policy measures are also crucial in addressing the challenges of integration and protecting the rights of immigrants. France has a robust legal framework for combating discrimination, but there are gaps in implementation and enforcement. Strengthening anti-discrimination laws and ensuring that they are effectively applied is essential for protecting the rights of immigrants and minorities. This includes providing adequate resources and training for law enforcement and judicial officials to handle cases of discrimination and hate crimes. Immigration policy itself is another area that requires careful consideration and reform. Balancing the need for border control and security with the humanitarian imperative to provide refuge for those fleeing conflict and persecution is a complex challenge. France, as a member of the European Union, is part of broader efforts to manage migration flows and ensure a coordinated response to the refugee crisis. This includes participating in resettlement programs, providing support for asylum seekers, and working with other EU countries to address the root causes of migration. Addressing the underlying economic and social factors that drive migration is also crucial. This involves supporting development and stability in regions affected by conflict and poverty, promoting fair trade and investment policies, and addressing climate change, which is increasingly a driver of migration. By addressing these root causes, France and other countries can help reduce the pressures that lead to large-scale migration and promote more sustainable and manageable migration flows. International cooperation is essential in addressing the challenges of migration and integration. France cannot solve these issues alone. They require a coordinated and collaborative approach at the European and global levels. This includes working with other countries to share the responsibility for hosting refugees, supporting development and peace-building efforts in regions of origin, and promoting international norms and standards for the protection of migrants and refugees. At the same time, it is important to recognize and celebrate the positive contributions that immigrants make to French society. Immigrants bring diverse perspectives, skills, and talents that enrich the cultural, economic, and social fabric of the country. They contribute to the economy as workers, entrepreneurs, and consumers. They enrich the cultural landscape through their traditions, arts, and cuisine, and they play a vital role in social and community life. Recognizing and valuing these contributions is essential for building a more inclusive and cohesive society. Ultimately, the challenges of integration and immigration in France require a holistic and multifaceted approach that addresses economic, social, cultural, and political dimensions. This involves promoting economic inclusion and social cohesion, protecting the rights of immigrants and minorities, fostering intercultural dialogue and understanding, and addressing the root causes of migration. It also requires strong leadership and political will to confront xenophobia and discrimination and to promote a vision of society that values diversity and inclusion. The current situation in France, marked by the destruction of Islamic mosques and rising anti-immigrant sentiment, is a stark reminder of the urgent need for action. It is a call to all sectors of society, government, civil society, the private sector, and individuals, to come together and work towards a more just and inclusive future. By addressing the root causes of division and promoting a culture of respect and understanding, France can navigate its way through this crisis and emerge stronger and more united. The path forward is undeniably complex, but through sustained efforts at every level, France can reaffirm its commitment to the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. By fostering dialogue, enhancing educational initiatives, enforcing robust legal protections, and celebrating the contributions of immigrants, the nation can heal its divisions and build a society that truly embraces diversity. This moment calls for unity and a renewed dedication to human rights, ensuring that all citizens, regardless of their background, can coexist peacefully and contribute to the rich tapestry of French culture. Through these collective efforts, France can emerge stronger, more inclusive, and more resilient. The attacks on Islamic mosques by French patriots represent a deep and troubling challenge to the values of liberty, equality, and fraternity that France holds dear. These actions are not just attacks on buildings, but on the very fabric of French society. They underscore the urgent need for comprehensive and coordinated efforts to address the underlying causes of xenophobia and to promote a more inclusive and cohesive society. By working together and embracing the diversity that defines its future, France can overcome these challenges and continue to be a beacon of human rights and equality. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us, do you support the actions of French patriots against mosques? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.